I'm back. Welcome to the Fin to the Woods podcast with me, Finian Hackett. It feels like quite a long time since I've done this, and it is. It's been 3 months or thereabouts since the last episode. I can only apologise, but it is just me with my microphone in my bedroom, so sometimes life gets in the way, or it all just kind of gets out of hand because I'm doing other things and I can't do an episode for a couple of weeks and I feel that I'm out the loop. But we are back, better than ever, with a vengeance, shall I say, and excited to get going again. There's been a lot of theatre excitement over the last few months for me, so I thought on this episode I'd just catch you up on what I've been up to, what's been going on in my life, and of course what I've been to see, shows like Hercules, Evita, some new stuff in the West End, which has been very exciting to be able to watch that quite early on in their respective runs, and also what's coming up on the podcast, who I am interviewing very, very soon for the podcast, which I'm very excited about, and yeah, just an overall catch-up on theatricalness. So, what have I been up to since our last episode? Well, I've turned 22. I've had my birthday, which was very lovely. Had a lovely time there. Also, we've had the Tony Awards. I did stay up and watch the Tonys for the first time ever. A very kind follower over on my Instagram, my new Instagram, at Fin to the Woods, which you can follow for all things kind of podcast related, theatre related. If you want to go and do that right now, just pause this and go and do so. Thank you very much. But also, yes, as I was saying, that follower helped me watch it basically here in the UK, and I had a marvellous time. I was up till 3 o'clock in the morning watching it. Was that a bit too late? Probably, because I was very tired the next day. However, I just loved being able to watch those performances as they were happening, find out who was winning as it was happening. I mean, it was a night of some great wins and some surprising wins actually as well. Obviously, you had the big race that everyone was talking about, which was Best Actress in a Leading Role in a Musical. It was a fight to kind of the death for some of those people involved in that category, because you just didn't know which way it was going to go. Lots of critics predicted in the end that it would be Audra after the whole controversy with Patti LuPone and all that drama. I think it then started to shift towards her, but ultimately the winner of the night was Nicole Scherzinger for Sunset Boulevard. I didn't see any performances in the Broadway season, so I cannot comment, but I know that all the women in the category worked particularly hard, and they gave fantastic performances. I've seen clips of all of them, and they're all good in their different ways, and I'm so happy that Death Becomes Her received. Yes, it was only one win for the costume, but the costume design in that show is just fantastic. So I was thrilled about that. And of course, we had some brilliant performances too, such as Audra doing Rose's Turn. Just a phenomenal performance, and it just shows why she is the most nominated Tony performer in history, but also the most Tony winning too. There's a reason for that, and the fact that all the other Broadway stars look up to her so much is a testament to how great she is, but also how kind she must be, because otherwise people wouldn't be saying all that stuff. So, and today, actually, as I'm recording this, is Audra's 55th birthday, because I'm recording this on the 3rd of July. So, happy birthday, Audra. Tony Awards aside, I have been spending quite a lot of time at the Regent's Park Open Air Theatre, because I am on their new observership scheme called the Open Room Scheme, and it basically is for aspiring directors, choreographers, movement directors, musical directors who want to get into the industry, get into a professional rehearsal room, meet people, meet fellow people who are aspiring too, and just learn about the process. And I applied for it a few months back, and I was very lucky to get a place on this scheme, and I'm spending about 1 or 2 days a week at Regent's Park, sitting in on rehearsals, sitting in on tech, dress, previews, and also the press night for 2 productions too. So those shows are the play Noughts and Crosses, written originally by Mallory Blackman, the book, and then adapted by Dominic Cook, and then Brigadoon, which is what they are doing as their kind of final summer musical this year. And it's been really interesting and a really great time. I mean, the weather has been pretty fantastic for us, so it's been nice in that respect. It's been so hot this last week when it was about 30 degrees and they were doing notes outside. And I mean, I'm just sat there observing, so I'm not really doing much, but oh my lord, I was so hot and sweaty. It was a lot. But I'm just having the best time, and everyone there has been so welcoming, so lovely. And this is the first year I think they've done this scheme, but it's such a brilliant idea, especially for someone like me who wants to go into directing. And it is quite hard to get down that avenue, and it's quite hard to find jobs and kind of early careers areas and early careers jobs for directors, because they want you to have a lot of experience, but it's how you get that experience to get to that place where they're going to employ you. It's a bit convoluted, but this scheme is a brilliant way of just meeting people and being in that environment, and I've just had a marvellous time. So if you are looking at getting into any side of kind of the creative industries in theatre, and they do this scheme again, which I think they are next year, apply, because it's so worth it. It's been really interesting, and it's just a lovely venue. It's such a unique place in the capital city to have a huge open air theatre. It seats 1,300 people. It's quite big, and there's so much infrastructure there. They have rehearsal rooms on site, which I didn't know until I started doing this placement thing there. And it's just a lovely atmosphere to be able to walk through Regent's Park every morning to get there, and walk home to the train station every night through Regent's Park. It's quite nice. It's an added bonus. And you don't feel like you're in the middle of one of the busiest cities in the world. You feel so separate from that. It's just a lovely place to be. So if you get the chance to go to Regent's Park this year, I have already. I've seen Shucked as an audience member. I went along to see that. Really enjoyed it. Really funny. Just a really fun American musical. And yeah, if you get the chance to see Noughts and Crosses, I think I'm a bit biased. It's quite difficult now because I can't go and see either of the shows this season and be like, oh, they're really good, because I feel like I haven't worked on them, but I've been around the rehearsal process. It's just a different perspective on things. So if I go, which I will on press night, I've already seen a preview of Noughts and Crosses, and I will have seen another one by the time this comes out, and I will be the same on Brigadoon. I won't review them because that feels a bit counterproductive, but Noughts and Crosses is very good, and I didn't really know the plot, I didn't really know the story. I read the book before I started rehearsals because I wanted to have an idea of what the storyline was, and I wasn't confused by all the characters and things like that. So I made sure to read that, and it's such a great storyline and such great characters, and it's a really great adaptation of the book to the stage, I think. This is the first major London revival in quite a while, and it's just a really good play. So if you get the chance, do go. It is nearly 3 hours, so do prepare yourself for that. And also, I suggest you go in the evening because the matinees are going to be boiling. So go at night time. That's my advice. An insider, if you will. It's not insider knowledge. It's just common sense, really. But Brigadoon as well, I think, is going to be great. I sat in rehearsals the other day. It's really up my alley. I love an old musical, and Brigadoon isn't done that often. It's got a great score by Lerner and Lowe. So again, a really lovely show, and if you get the chance, do go and see that too. So I'm having a wonderful time there, and I'm there till the beginning of August, I think it is, around that time. Then I'm done, and I'll be very sad because I've really enjoyed my time there. However, it's been great for me, and hopefully out of this I get a few more directing opportunities down the line. Also, around this time of year is one of my favourite things, Wimbledon. This is very random because I don't really speak about sport, obviously, because this is a theatre podcast. However, the only sport that I like, the only sporting event that I like, is Wimbledon. I love the tennis, and I haven't really been able to watch it because I've been at Regent's Park and other things this past week, but I will be watching it as much as I can. I love it. It's so much fun. And one of the tennis tournaments on kind of the circuit is in my hometown of Eastbourne. I used to go with school. I don't go now because it's very expensive. So I see that all happening in Eastbourne, and then I don't go, and then I watch Wimbledon from my bed. It's wonderful. So yes, that's another thing that's keeping me excited at the moment. Right, let's go through some of the shows that I have been to see over the last few months, and they're not all in the West End. There's a few tours, there's a few regional ones too. which always makes for more interesting content. So I went to see the Terence Rattigan play, The Deep Blue Sea, with Tamsin Greig in, and that was very heavy going. I enjoyed it, and I'm glad I've seen her in another play after seeing her in Backstroke with Celia Imrie a few months back. And yeah, I'm glad I went to see it. However, it was quite intense, quite an intense story, quite gritty, all set in one room. The set was lovely. It was so detailed. It was like a film set of a flat. It was great. The depth to it, big fan. But yeah, quite an intense play. And then that same day, I think it was, I went to see The Great Gatsby. Now, I went into this not knowing much about The Great Gatsby. I didn't know the film. I've never seen the film. I didn't really know the plot. I'd listened to the audiobook recently because I wanted to have a vague idea of what the characters were and what was going on, but I didn't know that much at all. So I went into this quite blind, like I do with most shows that I go to see. I'd seen bits and bobs about this musical adaptation online because there have been 2 Great Gatsby adaptations in the works and have been performed in the States. This one and also another one just called Gatsby, which has music and lyrics by Florence Welch from Florence and the Machine. So there's a lot of buzz about this show online. There's been quite a few viral moments from it on TikTok and on Instagram. So it's had quite a heavy online presence, and I think it has quite a similar audience to shows such as Heathers, Starlight Express, quite intense fan bases for those shows. So I think that's where the marketing has gone for this production. But there was a lot of hype about this show because of the online presence of it. So I went in and I thought that overall the leads were very strong. I thought it was a really great group of performers in those lead roles. In my opinion, Rachel Tucker is the standout of that show. I thought she was fantastic. She had a really great solo in Act 2, where she was just by herself on that stage at the London Coliseum, which I don't think works for musicals anyway. I think it's far too big, and I've thought that on every musical I've seen there. You feel so detached from the stage, it's bizarre. However, I think Rachel Tucker was the only person to be able to fully fill that space, because it is an opera house. It's huge, so you need an incredible kind of resonance and power behind you, and I think she has that down to a T. I thought the set was quite impressive. I think being in the London Coliseum, the bonus is that you have a lot of space in the flies, a lot of space in the wings. It's quite a big theatre. So the set was impressive. There were cars on stage, big staircases, and I love an extravagant set and where you can see the money that you've spent on the show, on your ticket, on stage. I just love it. And I thought the lighting was good, and I thought the video design was really well incorporated into the set, because sometimes it's not in certain shows, but I thought in this it was done really well. However, I thought as a whole the show itself wasn't really my bag. I thought the songs were quite forgettable in my opinion. There were a couple at the beginning of the show that are the ones that have kind of gone viral on TikTok with kind of dance trends and things like that. And unfortunately, I think they're the only really standout songs from the show, and they happen in the first 15 minutes. So you haven't really got them to look forward to later down the line. They happen, they're done, and you're like, oh, okay, they're done and dusted. Great songs there, but I think the rest of the score for me didn't really do much. I couldn't sing you any of the other songs from that show that I didn't already hear from TikTok, which I don't know if that's a good thing or not. I also didn't... I understood the plot, and I didn't dislike the plot. I know that they did change it from the book, because I went with my friend who was telling me that they've added storylines in and they've changed bits. To be honest, that doesn't bother me personally, because I have no kind of affiliation with the book. It's not something that I particularly care for, so I wasn't offended by those changes, and I wouldn't have known that those changes had happened had I not been told by someone else. However, I thought there was a couple of kind of slightly cringy dialogue moments too, and I think that is just the way it is as an American show. It is very American in the way it's written, I think. But it's obviously, as I said, had a lot of hype, and I don't think sometimes that helps with the production, because you have such high expectations for the show because everyone is going, oh my god, it's amazing online. And I'm not saying it wasn't for some people, because of course it is, but for me, I had an enjoyable time, do not get me wrong, and I sat there and I watched it and I had a good time. But also I couldn't really understand a lot of the singing or the dialogue because I thought the sound wasn't great, and I struggled with a lot of the diction as well from a lot of the characters in the show, which is always a recurring problem for me. I don't know if I've maybe got hearing issues. I don't think. But yeah, I struggled there. But I do think the crux of the issue is that the London Coliseum is too big. And I genuinely believe that. I saw Hairspray there. I saw My Fair Lady there. Have I seen something else there? Can't remember. But it is always too big. I feel so far away. Even when we were in the second row of the dress, we felt so far away from the stage. Because you're looking over everything. You see everything. And it just feels too big. That's just my personal opinion. I've been along to Chichester to see The Unlikely Pilgrimage of Harold Fry. Now, this is based on the book, which is in turn based on the radio play of the same name, and also the film, which came out a couple of years ago with Penelope Wilton and Jim Broadbent. And it's this very British story about this man who has this friend who lives at the other end of the country who is not very well. She's very poorly, and he decides to walk from his house I think it's in Devon, all the way up to near Scotland, basically. It is miles and miles and miles he walks, and he does it because he was very good friends with her when they used to work together back in the day, and something happened at his workplace and with his son, and it's all quite emotional in the reasoning behind it, but it is just this beautiful, heartfelt British story. And this is a new musical adaptation of it, and this is the world premiere at Chichester, and it stars Jenna Russell and Mark Addy and Jack Wolf. A really, really great cast. I think overall one of the strongest ensembles of actors I've seen in recent years. And I know that sounds very dramatic, but they all had so much to do because they all played different little characters that he bumps into on his journey. They all had different songs, different kind of moments throughout the show as different people, and it just worked so well. Some really lovely songs. I can still sing a few of them. There's no cast recording, so that is a good sign. If I can hum a few tunes from a show after I've been a few months ago, then to me, that is the sign of a good show. And I know that might not be what everyone thinks of as a sign of a good show, but for me, it's that. And things like Devil Wears Prada, when I went to see that, I couldn't sing you a single song. I still really can't from that show. But from this, I can. I just thought it was so clever. I loved the intimate setting. It was at the Minerva Theatre at the Chichester Festival Theatre. I've never been to the Minerva. I've always been to the festival, which is the bigger one. The Minerva is really intimate, but kind of a similar shaped auditorium, but just much smaller. And it was so lovely to be in that really small setting with those really great performers. And it was just, I feel like it resonated a lot with the audience about kind of the themes and just how British it was. I think that always makes you feel kind of slightly at home, slightly safe when you're watching a show, if you can relate to the kind of, like when he went into the kind of corner shop, or when he went into the phone box, or when he went to this place or that place. And I think you just feel that what you kind of, you understand more how these characters might be feeling. And I do hope it gets a further life. I think it deserves a further life, whether that is in London or on tour or something, because the run at Chichester, I believe, sold out very quickly, and rightfully so, and the reviews were pretty positive for it too, which I was really happy about. So I'd say if you get a chance, go and see it, but it's closed now, and I just really hope we see it again, because it was a beautiful production, and yeah, a really, really lovely show. I went along to the National Theatre to see the new Sondheim Here We Are. Again, I was unsure of how to feel about this going into it, because I was excited it was the new Sondheim, the final new Sondheim, with such a phenomenal cast. I mean, Jessie Tyler Ferguson, Martha Plimpton, Jane Krakowski, Who else is in it? Literally everybody. Tracy Bennett, Rory Kinnear. It was just the best cast ever. But I didn't know how to feel because I'd heard mixed things. I'd seen very mixed reviews about this show. Even when it was off Broadway a couple of years ago too, it had a mixed reaction. But I wanted to go in and try and make up my own mind about it. I hadn't listened to the cast recording either, actually. I'd completely avoided all spoilers really for the plot or anything. And I personally really enjoyed it. I thought it was really fun, quite funny, very clever, very off the wall. I mean, it's not a show I'd take someone who doesn't really know anything about theatre to go and see. I think it would scare them off slightly, I have to say. But that cast alone was worth the price of a ticket. It was just great seeing all those different performers in one singular show, and also in the final new Sondheim. Like, that's not going to happen again. So I think it was just a kind of beautiful moment in theatre history, if you will. And it was interesting because Act 1, these characters, these kind of posh characters, are trying to find somewhere to go for brunch. And that is the main plot of Act 1. Act 2, they all end up being locked in the room of an embassy. It's quite complicated, but they end up being locked in a room of an embassy for the whole of Act 2. The whole of Act 2. And there are hardly any songs in Act 2, maybe one, maybe two. And at the time, and also when I made my TikTok, I wasn't aware of this fact. However, there's a reason behind this, and it isn't because Sondheim died. It's because this show is based on two separate films, and apparently the first film had underscore, and the second film, which Act 2 is based on, had no music in it. It had no underscore in it at all. And apparently that is why they then chose to not have any music in Act 2, because I read it in the programme when I got home a few days later. So that's quite interesting to me. But also, it was just interesting to see a show that didn't have Sondheim's final approval, because he was known for being very heavily involved in the productions, especially the new productions of his shows, but also revivals too. And this is the first one where he hasn't really had any input at all in how the production looks or how it's being done. And I think that I don't think it did show, because I don't know how else you would have done it, but I think it's interesting that they went ahead and did it after he passed. But I'm glad they did, because I think it's really fun. I mean, you can see maybe it being done quite badly by amateur companies or by some other people. I think the cast did really help, and the production budget and the value and it being at the National did help it. So I can see it being kind of one of the lesser performed Sondheims, but again, still so glad I managed to see that production. Some other things I've been to see include Kylie Minogue at the O2. That was just a fantastic evening, seeing the Kylie Minogue, and we got an upgrade. It was amazing. I went to see Pyjama Game, the GSA production in Guildford. I love that show. I love a classic Broadway musical, and the Pyjama Game is one of those. It fits that perfectly. So I had a wonderful time seeing that. I saw the UK tour of Joseph. I wanted to see Christina Bianco in the role of the narrator, and I wanted to see someone I knew who was in it too. Had a wonderful time watching that. A lovely and short show as well. That's why I like Joseph. I also have been to see Hercules twice. Now, both times I was very lucky because I got to go for free, which was very, very lovely of the people who managed to get tickets. My friend Megan works on the show, and she invited me to the open dress, which was the day before previews started. And this was so exciting because we were the first audience in the UK to ever see this production of Hercules, and I felt very privileged to be there, and I had a really good time, and I think the audience was so excited to be the first audience to see it that the energy in that room was palpable. The energy after every number, especially when the muses were on, was just really intense, and I think it made for a really great viewing experience. I mean, is Hercules a groundbreaking musical? No, it's kind of fits the Disney formula, and it works very well in that sense. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was quite funny. I thought some of the bits of set were really nice. There had lots of moving pillars and columns, which I really enjoyed. And the muses are divine. I think they are just phenomenal. The vocals. And even when I went again last week, and again, someone had a ticket that they couldn't go, so they gave me it. I'm very thankful to go. I was in row B, so I was in the upper, right at the top the first time, and I was in row B of the stalls the second time, so very different viewing experiences. But both times I had a great time. It's so much fun. And even, as I was saying, the muses, they had a kind of cover muse, I think it was on when I went the second time, and it was just as clean, just as great. The vocals are just amazing. And oh, it's so good. There's a couple of new songs in the show which I thought were great. A couple I couldn't really remember, and I don't think lived up to the original score. But the Muses have one in Act 2 called, I think it's called Bolts of Thunder or something like that. And it's kind of a bit like Holding Out for a Hero by Bonnie Tyler. That vibe. And it's so fun. But yeah, great ensemble as well. Really great ensemble of dancers. And I just had a fun time. It's a really fun family show. So if you like Hercules, and yes, it is quite different from the film. They've changed quite a lot of it, I have to say. So I would go in slightly open-minded if you're a big fan of the movie, but you get to hear all those wonderful songs on stage in a wonderful musical theatre setting in one of the best theatres in London. So it's a pretty good time. I did a double show day of seeing Shucked, as I've spoken about already, and also Benjamin Button. So I hadn't actually got round to seeing this, and it was annoying me because I knew it was closing in August. It's now extended to October, but at the time it hadn't. And I was worried because I really wanted to see it before it closed because it won a few Olivier Awards. It was meant to be fantastic, and I've heard a lot of great things about it over the last couple of years. And I've just had some really great viewing experiences at the theatre recently because I thought it was just wonderful. I thought it was so clever, and it was all actor muso, and it was just the fact that they play a clarinet, a bass guitar, and a saxophone, but also, I mean, not all those instruments together, that'd be bizarre, but though it's just the ability to be able to do that and also sing beautifully and act beautifully and dance beautifully, but all do it at the same time, and it never sounds bad. It always sounds fantastic. It kind of blows my mind slightly, but I just think it worked so well for that production because they've moved the setting of Benjamin Button to Cornwall, and it's all quite folky in the music and feels quite Cornish, if you will. So I just thought it was so clever. They all play different characters throughout it, and it's all kind of, they're in very similar costumes the whole way. The set was the same the whole way, but it just worked. And it's at the Ambassador Theatre, which is tiny theatre, really, really small, opposite the Mousetrap. And it worked really well for the show because I think it needed that intimate setting. And I think the show had been at Southwark Playhouse, which again is another very intimate venue. And it works for this kind of show, which is a fairly small cast and doesn't have too many big flashy production numbers at all, really. It's not that kind of show. But the emotion in the story and the acting, I loved Claire Foster, who played kind of the lead woman in the show. I thought she was phenomenal. Just a really wonderful show. Again, really heartwarming, feels very British, a bit like Harold Fry. And I just really had a wonderful time watching it. So if you have not seen it yet, do go. It's currently booked into October, and I think it will close in October. I think it's their final extension. And I'm glad it's selling, and I'm glad it's doing well, because it deserves an audience. A very pleasant surprise there. Really happy about seeing that one. And then the other week, I went to see Evita. Now, I went to see it in previews, so this is before the press night the other night. It had very good reviews overall, really. It's had a lot of 5 stars, but a few mixed reviews in there too, and still some criticisms within those 5 stars, which confuses me slightly how it can be a 5-star review yet isn't perfect in your opinion. But I mean, that's down to the prerogative of the reviewer. However, I went in previews. I just really wanted to see it early on before everyone has been, and there's loads of bootlegs and there's loads of clips, and I can go and make up my own mind, because with Sunset Boulevard, another Jamie Lloyd directed musical, I didn't see it, so all my opinions of that show are based on what I've seen online, which I'm sure isn't the full experience of the show. So it's hard, I think, sometimes when there are these really kind of viral musicals that have a lot of kind of online buzz. You see so much about it online, sometimes before you see it, it ruins the experience because there's no surprises, you don't go, oh, I'm not expecting that. Even with this, with Evita, some of Rachel Zegler's performances have been posted on TikTok, the audio, so people now go knowing what she's going to sound like, how she's going to sing the songs, and I think it kind of ruins it sometimes, because you don't have the unexpectedness of going, oh, I wonder how she's going to sing this song, how she's going to hit that note, which makes it a more exciting viewing, in my opinion. So I went into this trying not to have read anything. I'd read a few kind of early reaction things, and obviously this production originated at Regent's Park in, I think, 2019, and this is a kind of rehash of that revival that they did over there, and it's very different. They kind of play Evita as this pop star, and it's on this big staircase thing, and it's very different. It's very out there. It's very modern. It is not the Evita you know. I mean, Rachel Zegler spends half the show in kind of like a black kind of leather bralette thing and hot pants. It's interesting. It's very out there. And I thought she was great. I do think vocally especially, she is just fantastic. And I know she's had a lot of negative press for, I think, random and bizarre reasons. I think the press just decided one day, we are going to dislike this woman, and have continually just put shit out there against her. Even the New York Post recently have been putting posts about Evita out, just being negative about her and about the creative decisions of the production, which have nothing to do with her. And it just frustrates me slightly, because I think she is a fantastically talented person. And I've been a fan for a long, long time, when she used to post clips of her in high school, in Shrek and other shows, and me and my sister used to send them to each other. And then she obviously got West Side, and her career has skyrocketed since. And she's had a few blips with Snow White and with a couple of other things which haven't gone down as well, not because of her, but because of the kind of the project in general. But I just think theatre is the place for her, and I really hope that the theatre industry treats her nicely and treats her well, because I think it's where she will thrive, and she deserves to thrive as well. Just the way, with ease, that she sung things like Rainbow High and Don't Cry For Me Argentina. Just, there's no effort, and I mean that in the best way possible. It's just so beautiful. She's just, I think she's fantastic, and I really like her. Do I like the way that the character of Evita is portrayed in this production? I don't know. Do I? Because she's, to me, felt quite cold, and I know that it's all maybe part of it, but there was a lot of times when she stood still and kind of did a lot of kind of posing, and that was it for a few numbers. And I don't think that's down to her. I think that's down to the way it's directed, and that's my issues with the production as a whole. However, she was great. I also thought the ensemble were just insane. The choreography is very modern, very intense, and it works in the way this production is done. Would it work in a normal production of Evita? No way, but it works in the way this production is done. And they are all so in sync, they're so together, they're so kind of just the energy, the intensity of the way they performed the choreography is great. And I thought they were big standouts for me. The lighting as well. And I just think it was, because on the set they have this big staircase, and underneath each step there's loads of lights, but they shine out onto the auditorium and the lights are beaming down, and it's just so intricately lit that that's something that really impressed me. The sound when I went wasn't the best, and I read in a couple of the reviews that people also thought this, and I was sat at the top in the kind of grand circle of the Palladium, and I don't know if it's because I was sat up there, but I struggled with the diction of some of the characters, and also sometimes the music was so overpowering from the orchestra. They sound great, but it was so loud because it's so rocky that it kind of overpowered a lot of the dialogue and the vocals, and they've all got handheld mics too, which I don't think helps sometimes with getting diction across and words across. So yeah, that was my issues there. Obviously, I went in previews, and hopefully they sorted out those issues. But I think sometimes shows forget about the grand circle. They forget about the people in the cheaper seats, and they don't make sure that the sound is great from those places. So that was slightly disappointing for me. Now, the big drama around this production that people have had is the video section of Don't Cry For Me Argentina. So she, as a character, Ava Peron, goes out on a balcony and she sings Don't Cry For Me Argentina. It's usually done inside the theatre. In this production, she is singing it on the balcony of the London Palladium to crowds of people outside who are standing there for free to watch it, and the performance is live streamed back into the theatre. Now, I wasn't sure how I would feel about this. I thought it was inoffensive. I think that's the word I would use. I wasn't wowed by it. I didn't think it was completely necessary. It wouldn't be how I would do it if I was directing Evita. It wouldn't be my personal choice. However, I don't think it was as bad as everyone else has been saying, that all the press have been saying. I think it's been blown out of proportion completely, because all these kind of articles that are coming out are from people who haven't even seen the show. I didn't mind it. I watched it and she sounded beautiful. I quite liked how they did it. It was fine. Like, do you know what I mean? It didn't bother me, really. I didn't go out of that going, oh, that video section made it horrendous. Not at all. And yeah, so I mean, as a whole, the way this production is done isn't my vibe. I do like a more traditional staging of musicals. Not traditional, I like an extravagant staging. And this is extravagant in some ways. It's just very modern. And very modern shows with handheld mics and stuff have not gone down well with me in the past, because I've seen them and I've just gone, I don't understand the point in this. I think Evita, more so than others, I understood what they were trying to get across. I think sometimes the storytelling was lost a little bit just because of the kind of abstractness of it all. However, I didn't have a horrible time. I didn't sit there going, oh, get me out of here. I did enjoy it, but as a whole, it's not really my bag. However, I understand why people are loving it. I understand why people will continue to go and see it, and it's going to be a success. And I also think now that Rachel Zegler is going to be a star. I think she was already, but I think hopefully now she gets the recognition she deserves. And by the looks of it, she is the front runner for the Olivier and all the other awards already. Obviously, we will see what else opens in the next few months and weeks, and have until February next year when the deadline is. But I think for now and for the foreseeable, she could be the next Olivier winner. So that was kind of the selection of shows that I've seen. That's not everything, but I thought I'd tell you about a few of them anyway. And I've got a few coming up in the diary, not that many actually. I'm going to see Top Hat and Marie and Rosetta at Chichester, 2 in the same day, one at the Minerva, one at the Festival Theatre, which I'm really excited for. I've never done a 2-show day at Chichester, and hopefully the weather will be nice. That's in a couple of weeks' time. I'm really looking forward to that. And also, I'm going to see the Acorn Antiques concert later this year. I think it's in November. And I love Victoria Wood, the comedian, and all her work. And Acorn Antiques was a brilliant sketch that she did on her programme As Seen on TV, where she would spoof this kind of Crossroads-esque drama soap opera, and it would all go wrong. It's all a bit shambolic, and it was brilliant. And they turned it into a fully fledged musical in the mid-noughties with some of the original stars, including Julie Walters and Celia Imrie, who won an Olivier for the show. And they're finally bringing it back after a very long time of it not being anywhere for this one-night concert. They're doing a few dates in Manchester, and they've just announced a date at the Shaftesbury in November. And I am going, and I cannot wait. I cannot wait. I think it's going to be brilliant. And I really hope that some of those original Victoria Wood stars make an appearance somehow. I'm not sure how, but I'd love for them to even just be there. Would be wonderful. I really want to go to Edinburgh Fringe this year. I don't think I've got the time. I've got the time, but I don't think I've got the money to go. But I do really, really want to go. I've always wanted to see kind of what all the hype is about, and one of my friends is working up there at this kind of year as well. So I'm tempted, because I just need to book a flight, really. And there's quite a few shows that I want to see, and yeah, I'm hoping maybe I'll go, but we'll see. I'm interviewing a very exciting guest for the podcast next week. I'm not going to tell you who until I've done the interview, but I'll give you a few clues. This person is a Tony Award winner, the first Tony Award winner to grace us with their presence on the podcast. And I'm very excited about this because they won a Tony for a show that I love, and a production of a show that I think was very good, but also I think this person was particularly good in, and is to this date the only person to win a Tony for playing that part, despite many other people being nominated. So that says a lot about this person's performance. But they are a fantastic Broadway performer, but also in TV and on film, and they're just so funny. They are taking a show to the Edinburgh Fringe as well, so we'll be talking about that. But I cannot wait to interview this person. I've been a fan for a long time, and I'm so glad they've agreed to have this chat with me. And yeah, I'm very excited. So keep your eyes peeled, keep your ears peeled as well to see who that is going to be. But I cannot wait to interview that person. Well, I think that's about it for this week's episode. I'm glad I've managed to catch you up on all that I've been to see and given you a little bit of insight on what I've been up to as well and what I'm going to be getting up to in the next few weeks. But yes, please follow the podcast. Please follow my new Instagram at FinToTheWoods. And yes, make sure you follow my TikTok as well. I'm really close to 100k on there, which is absolutely bloody crazy, but I'm really close. So any follow would be very much appreciated. And yes, I will speak to you once more again next week.